We have with us today the best of the best speakers for you. They will impart their stories to you, their hopes, their dreams, their experiences, their calls to action. Some of them are affiliated with LGBTQ serving organizations throughout this state. Some of them are unaffiliated LGBTQ individuals. Listen to them with all of your heart. Our first speaker is the Director of Residential Advocacy at Sojourner House. She has over 20 years of experience in domestic violence and sexual assault advocacy. She started volunteering in the LGBTQ community in 1997 in Normal, Illinois, answering phones, stuffing envelopes, and running youth groups. In Las Vegas, she ran an outreach program for gay, bisexual, and trans runaway youth engaged in sex work. Since returning home to Rhode Island, she has been coordinating the HIV program at Sojourner House. She has opened a domestic violence shelter and services center and continued the work with LGBTQ youth, as well as folks engaged in sex work. Please welcome Kelly Henry.
Woo! Let's hear a cheer. Come on. Yay! You did it. All right. Oh, wow, this doesn't sound like me at all. So it's good to see all of you out here today, working to show each other and the state and the country that we are still here working for the entire LGBT community. My name is Kelly Henry, and like Tim said, I am the Director of Residential Advocacy at Sojourner House. Sojourner House is a comprehensive domestic violence and sexual assault agency that serves Providence and Northern Rhode Island. Sojourner House provides crisis intervention, advocacy, shelter, and other necessary services to victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and human trafficking. We have a drop-in center right down the way on Smith Street, where we provide support groups, one-on-one advocacy, rapid confidential HIV tests, educational programs for schools, community agencies, and law enforcement. We also have a vibrant immigration advocacy program where we help undocumented victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking apply for relief. In our residential program, we have a safe house for women and female-identified folks and children, a safe house for men and male-identified folks, and Rhode Island's first shelter for folks who've been trafficked. We have a lot of housing, and on any given night, we have between 70 and 80 people staying in our programs. We also have every day about 5 calls for people looking for shelter, and there are no places for them to go. Sojourner House has a deep commitment to the LGBT community, and it was one of the things that brought me to the agency 5 years ago. So 5 years ago when I started, we noticed that there was a huge population of gay, bisexual, and trans men who were calling for services, and there were no services for them. No shelter, no support groups, no anything. So they would have to go as far as Boston or New York to get any kind of help or relief. And so with the help of the compassionate and caring staff that I work with, we, buckled down and we thought about it, and we were able to develop services and a shelter for men and male-identified folks. And when we started, a bunch of my friends, well, I don't know if they're my friends, but a bunch of the community partners, well, some of them at least said, what are you doing? This is going to be a failure. No one's going to call. No one's going to come. There's no need. You're just taking services. You're taking money from people who really need it and just, throwing it away. And what I want to tell you is that every day we have been full. So it's obviously needed. And every day I get calls and people are looking for shelter and services, and there isn't any room. So that's just one story. About 2 years ago, I was working late, which I often do, and it was late. And a young woman of color showed up at the office, and she was crying, and even though it was late, I let her in, and we talked, and she started to tell me her story. And it come to find out, she was a young trans woman, and she had returned home, and I just lost myself. Oh, there. Sorry, guys. And she had returned home because there was a family emergency in the house. She had transitioned while she was at college, and when she returned home to help out, it became apparent that mom and dad were very upset, and then they became abusive, and it became very toxic, and she became unable to like work or go to school or do anything. So she had gone to a homeless shelter, and while she was there, she felt threatened for physical and sexual violence. So what do, right? So I do what I always do. I started calling people to see if I couldn't find her a safe place to go, because Sojourner House was full, because we're always full. And when I started making phone calls, I got responses from everything like confusion to disdain to just insensitivity. And I was like, well, no, I don't trust anybody to take you in. So I said, hey, you want to come stay on the couch? And so we closed the living room down, and she stayed there for a few days, and we got her in our transitional housing program. And I'm proud to say that she is doing great. She's working 2 jobs, she's enrolled for school in the fall, and she's doing well. So what can you guys do? Yeah, right? She's great. Woo! You guys you're quiet out there. Maybe you're just far away. You're really far. But what can we do? So there's lots of things you guys can do. You can vote, right? Woo! We still can vote. You can volunteer. There's any number of agencies here in Providence and around the state that work with LGBT folks who would love to have you. You know, I can't say enough about volunteering. It's great. You can donate. You know, most of us will take anything, whether it's, you know, shampoo or whatever, canned food. There's lots of things you can do. Before I step down, I mean, there's so many stories I could tell you. I could tell you about the gay, undocumented man who was being abused by his partner, who we were able to give relief to. I could tell you stories about the young lesbians who show up who are going through serious post-traumatic stress. And when I start talking to them, they have believed the myth that women can't sexually assault other women, and so they don't understand what's going on. And so we help provide them support and education, and we keep coming and we keep talking and we keep saying, you know, you're here and it's great, you know, and you have every reason to deserve a healthy and safe relationship, just like every other person. Before I step down, there is one thing I want to say that's really dear to my heart. So in 2013, the Violence Against Women Act was reauthorized by Congress. In this version of the 2013 Violence Against Women Act, men were granted the same services, shelter services, all kinds of support if they were a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, as women were. This authorization also granted Native populations certain privileges and rights. It granted the trans community protections, and it granted protections for immigrants and undocumented folks. Well, currently, our administration doesn't like those protections for the undocumented people, for trans community, and for the Native populations around the country. So we've been told that when it comes up for authorization or reauthorization in 2019, but it could be 2018, that they are going to try to take those out. And what I want you all to do is to be vigilant and remember, because those services provide life-saving services to our community, to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans youth, and people who need those services. So we need to be vigilant, we need to be active, and we need to be engaged, okay? So just keep showing up, and I want to thank you all for coming out today, and I hope you have a great day.